The kingdom of Oboduku stood tall and proud, its lands blessed by the gods. It was said that no harm could come to Oboduku as long as its rulers honored the sacred covenant with the gods. This covenant had been passed down from generation to generation, and for centuries, Oboduku had prospered. Its neighbors, 7 powerful kingdoms, would bow in respect, seeking protection from Oboduku's strength and divine favor. But one fateful night, everything changed. In the heart of Oboduku, the king's palace stood magnificent, as always. King Azebwe, wise and just, sat alone in the royal chamber, his heart heavy with a troubling vision. He had dreamt of dark clouds swirling above the kingdom, the gods' blessing fading away. It was a sign. He knew the kingdom's future was tied to the choices of his son, Prince Chiji. The prince was young, brave, and full of fire. But he had grown restless under the weight of tradition. He believed that the power of Oboduku came from its armies, not the gods. As a boy, he had always heard stories of the covenant, but in his heart, he had started to question the gods' true power. The prince wanted to prove that Oboduku could stand alone, without divine protection. He had begun to speak in secret, calling for a new path, one where the kingdom would rule by strength and ambition, not by faith. That night, Prince Chiji snuck out of the palace, determined to break the covenant. He climbed the ancient mountain where the gods were said to dwell, a place only the high priest dared to enter. The wind howled as he approached the sacred altar, his heart racing with both fear and excitement. As he reached the altar, the air grew still. The prince stood before the stone that had been marked with the gods' blessing for centuries. Without hesitation, he drew his sword and struck it. A loud crack echoed through the night. The earth trembled. It was done. The covenant was broken. The next morning, the kingdom awoke to an eerie silence. The sun seemed dimmer, and a strange cold swept over the land. King Azebwe's heart sank when he saw the empty space where the sacred altar had stood. His son had done the unthinkable. From that day forward, the gods withdrew their favor. The neighboring kingdoms, once obedient to Oboduku's strength, now grew bold. They stopped paying homage. Rival armies began to march closer, and the peace that had held for so long was shattered. The kingdom was no longer protected, and the gods' anger was felt in every corner of Oboduku. King Azebwe, broken by his son's actions, called upon the people to remember the old ways, but it was too late. The skies darkened, and the rivers, once abundant, began to dry up. Prince Chiji, now filled with regret, tried to restore what he had destroyed, but the gods' wrath was unforgiving. He wandered through the land, seeking a way to appease them, but the damage was done. In time, Oboduku would fall. The once great kingdom that had stood unshaken for centuries would crumble, as the gods, in their silence, watched from afar.